Welcome back to our channel. The world has seen a whirlwind of events lately, and today we're diving deep into a topic that affects millions, yet often remains shrouded in diplomatic ambiguity and complex regulations. Why are certain nations essentially barred, virtually blacklisted, from individuals ever setting foot in the United States? We aren't just discussing a handful of visa rejections sprinkled here and there. We're exploring situations involving full-scale visa denial modes, characterized by stringent border controls, labyrinthine paperwork processes, and approval odds that are nearly insurmountable. Could the country you call home, or one you care deeply about, be on this restrictive list? Or perhaps even more unsettling, is it included for reasons seldom brought into the open, hidden beneath layers of political tension and historical context? From active war zones and profound political chaos to deeply ingrained mistrust between governments, these specific places find themselves almost invisible on America's list of welcomed visitors. And here's a twist. Some of these very countries previously enjoyed robust ties with the United States, relationships built over decades, only to see everything dramatically reverse. Prepare yourself, because we are about to dissect the circumstances of 10 Asian nations whose citizens almost never receive U.S. visas, and crucially, explore the intricate reasons why. Stay with us as we unpack these complex geopolitical realities, and remember, we'll be drawing some important conclusions towards the end of this video. The world is constantly shifting, and understanding these dynamics is more critical than ever. Let's examine these events together. If you find this analysis insightful, please consider subscribing to our channel and hitting the like button. It truly helps us grow and continue bringing you in-depth reports like this. We'd also love to hear from you. Drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from. Your engagement is vital for our channel's progress. Let's begin with Afghanistan. Individuals wait in queues for hours upon hours, clutching worn documents, clinging to the faintest glimmer of hope for a chance at a different future. But if your origin is Afghanistan, the statistical probability suggests you are unlikely to ever step onto U.S. soil. Since the Taliban's resurgence to power in 2021, the rate of visa issuance has plummeted to virtually nil. The United States government suspended the majority of its embassy functions in Kabul, leaving Afghan applicants in a precarious position. Now, individuals seeking a U.S. visa are compelled to undertake arduous and often perilous journeys to neighboring countries simply to submit an application, only to confront rejection rates exceeding a staggering 90%. It forms a heartbreaking cycle of hope and disappointment. One might assume that translators and other personnel who risk their lives assisting U.S. military forces would be granted priority access. While some special immigrant visa, SIV, cases do eventually get processed, even these individuals, who demonstrably aided American efforts, encounter years of frustrating delays and bureaucratic entanglements. The nation is currently ensnared in a suffocating loop of uncertainty. Visas are systematically blocked. The established application process is fundamentally broken, and the line of people desperate for an escape route continues to lengthen relentlessly. Imagine the desperation of needing to flee for your very survival, facing imminent danger in your homeland, yet being consistently told no, time and time again, by the very nation you might have hoped would offer refuge. This is the stark reality for countless Afghans, a situation exacerbated by the geopolitical fallout and the operational shutdown of consular services within their country. The prospects for improvement appear bleak in the foreseeable future, leaving a generation in limbo, caught between a past they need to escape and a future that remains firmly locked away. The human cost of these policy decisions and geopolitical shifts is immeasurable, echoing in the stories of those left behind. Please, make sure to watch this video until the very end, as we will be summarizing the key factors and drawing important conclusions from these challenging situations. Now, let's turn our attention to North Korea. You likely anticipated this entry on our list. There exists one nation from which escape is nearly impossible, and obtaining a U.S. visa is almost entirely within the realm of science fiction. We are, of course, discussing North Korea. The United States hasn't maintained a functional embassy within its borders for decades, severing the most direct diplomatic and consular link. Even in the extraordinarily rare circumstance that a North Korean citizen manages to reach a third country equipped with a U.S. consulate, a feat involving immense risk and defying the strict controls of their own government, The probability of securing visa approval is statistically infinitesimal, hovering at less than 1%. The reality is that the vast majority of North Koreans are strictly prohibited by their own regime from leaving their national borders, let alone navigating the complex international process of applying for a foreign visa. The very concept of international travel is a privilege reserved for an extremely select few, usually those with high-level government approval and specific state-sanctioned purposes. For the average citizen, the borders are sealed, both physically and bureaucratically. Those who do manage to defect, undertaking perilous journeys often through China, where they risk forced repatriation and severe punishment, face another set of daunting obstacles. Many find themselves in a desperate struggle to locate countries willing and able to assist them in reuniting with family members already residing in the United States. The diplomatic wall separating North Korea from the U.S. and much of the international community is exceptionally high, fortified by decades of hostility, sanctions, and mutual suspicion. This isn't merely a matter of bureaucratic red tape. It's a barrier constructed from barbed wire, pervasive censorship, absolute state control over movement and information, and a near-total absence of diplomatic channels. This isolation is why encountering someone traveling internationally with a North Korean passport in America, or indeed most parts of the world, is an exceptionally rare occurrence. The path to a U.S. visa for a North Korean is not just difficult. For almost everyone, it is practically non-existent, a stark reflection of the deep political chasm between the two nations. Consider Iran. You might find it surprising to learn that merely a few decades ago, American tourists and exchange students were a common sight in Iranian cities. They were actively shopping in the bustling bazaars, enrolling in universities, and immersing themselves in one of the world's most ancient and rich cultures. The relationship, though complex even then, allowed for a degree of cultural and educational exchange that seems almost unimaginable today. However, the present reality is starkly different. Iran now stands as one of the most challenging places globally for its citizens to gain approval for a U.S. visa. What precipitated such a dramatic shift? The reasons are multifaceted, extending far beyond simple political disagreements. It's a tangled web woven from history, deep-seated mistrust stemming from events like the 1979 revolution and the ensuing hostage crisis, and formidable mountains of bureaucratic red tape and stringent security protocols. Following the 1979 Islamic Revolution, which overthrew the U.S.-backed Shah, diplomatic ties between the two nations were completely severed. Decades later, even now, there remains no official U.S. embassy operating within Iran. This absence of a direct consular presence forces every Iranian seeking a U.S. visa, whether for tourism, education, business, or family reunification, to navigate the process through a third country. Applicants typically must travel to U.S. embassies or consulates in nations like Turkey, the United Arab Emirates, or Armenia. This requirement inherently adds significant layers of complexity, involving additional costs for travel and accommodation, increased personal risk, and inevitably, further delays in an already lengthy process. But here's what exacerbates the situation. Iran consistently ranks among the nations with the highest U.S. visa refusal rates in all of Asia. Many applicants find their requests denied based on broad interpretations of immigration law, often simply due to their region of origin or perceived potential risks, even without specific evidence against them. You would be astonished at the sheer number of highly qualified individuals, accomplished students accepted to prestigious universities, leading scientists with vital research contributions, and even immediate relatives of American citizens, who are denied entry with little to no clear explanation provided for the refusal. Thousands of Iranians apply each year, harboring hopes for educational advancement, professional opportunities, or the deeply human desire to reunite with loved ones. Yet the overwhelming majority of these applicants walk away empty-handed, their aspirations curtailed by a system operating under layers of political tension and security concerns. The process itself is notoriously long, emotionally draining, and frustratingly unpredictable. There's always that lingering, anxiety-inducing question hanging over every applicant. Will I even be granted the chance to state my case, let alone be approved? Meanwhile, Back in Iran, families wait anxiously, potential opportunities evaporate, and hope dwindles with every unanswered email and every passing month without a decision. What was once envisioned as a potential bridge facilitating understanding between two distinct cultures has transformed into a vast canyon of silence, mistrust, and separation. A geopolitical reality impacting lives profoundly every single day. The cumulative effect of historical grievances, ongoing political disputes, and stringent security measures creates an almost insurmountable barrier for most Iranians dreaming of reaching the United States. Let's examine the situation in Syria. Imagine individuals meticulously filling out application forms, carefully gathering every required document, ensuring they follow every stipulated rule in the visa application process. They might be students accepted into American universities, professionals with job offers, or families desperately seeking refuge or reunification. They do everything by the book, adhering to the complex guidelines set forth. However, if their place of origin is Syria, the statistical likelihood overwhelmingly indicates that they will not be receiving a U.S. visa, regardless of their qualifications or circumstances. Since the devastating outbreak of the Syrian civil war in 2011, the situation for prospective visa applicants has deteriorated from merely difficult to nearly impossible. The ongoing conflict, the fragmentation of the country, the rise of extremist groups, and the complex geopolitical interventions have created an environment deemed exceptionally high risk by U.S. authorities. Consequently, the U.S. Embassy in Damascus ceased operations years ago, severing the primary consular link for Syrian citizens. This closure compels Syrian applicants to undertake perilous and costly journeys to neighboring countries, such as Jordan, Lebanon, or Turkey, just to attend a visa interview, assuming they can even secure the necessary permissions and safe passage to leave Syria and enter the third country. But here's the critical element amplifying the difficulty. The U.S. visa approval rate for Syrian nationals is among the absolute lowest worldwide. It scarcely matters whether the applicant is a promising student with a scholarship, a highly skilled doctor needed in the U.S., or a family member attempting to reunite with loved ones already established in America. The result is frequently the same: visa denied. You would be truly shocked to understand how many families have been forcibly separated for years, caught in a state of perpetual limbo due to intricate paperwork requirements, shifting policies often influenced by security concerns, and sheer, unpredictable administrative delays. And then there is the unavoidable issue of safety and security risks. Many Syrians applying for U.S. visas are actively fleeing extreme violence and persecution, hoping for asylum or emergency relocation as refugees. However, even these critical humanitarian cases are subjected to intense, prolonged security screening processes. The system, often overwhelmed and operating under strict security mandates, simply cannot keep pace with the volume and urgency of these applications. Some individuals have languished for over 5 years awaiting a decision that ultimately never materializes. Here is a fact that most people outside this process fail to realize. A significant number of Syrian applicants are not merely seeking a better economic life. They are literally trying to survive. Yet, paradoxically, even humanitarian visas are exceptionally rare and difficult to obtain. Travel bans implemented in past years, though sometimes modified, have further complicated the process, adding layers of legal and administrative hurdles. People possessing entirely legitimate reasons for travel, attending academic conferences, continuing vital studies, visiting immediate family, find themselves ensnared in the heart of a diplomatic no-man's land. When the official, legal process fails them, what happens? Many desperate individuals are forced to turn towards far riskier, illicit options, relying on human smugglers, obtaining fraudulent documents, and undertaking dangerous, often deadly, routes across borders and seas. This occurs simply because the legitimate pathway is blocked at nearly every conceivable turn. It represents a silent, ongoing crisis, one that doesn't always capture international headlines, but unfolds daily in overcrowded embassy waiting rooms and in the stark finality of rejection letters, shattering hopes, and indefinitely separating families. The confluence of war, embassy closures, stringent security vetting, and complex international relations has created an almost impenetrable barrier for Syrians seeking entry into the United States. Consider Yemen. Try to envision this scenario. Your home is engulfed by conflict. Access to basic necessities like clean water is a luxury, not a guarantee, and the threat of bombs falling closer looms large every single day. Amidst this chaos, you summon the courage and resources to apply for a U.S. visa, perhaps clinging to a hope for safety, education, or reunification with family abroad. However, if you are from Yemen, that dream is almost invariably out of reach. The U.S. visa approval rate for Yemeni citizens is shockingly low, with a vast number of applications being either ignored indefinitely or denied outright. This has been the grim reality ever since the devastating civil war escalated dramatically in 2015. Obtaining a U.S. visa has transitioned from being merely difficult to bordering on the impossible. Why this extreme barrier? A primary reason is the closure of the U.S. Embassy in Sana'a. Due to the intense conflict and security situation, the embassy ceased operations years ago and has shown no signs of reopening since. This operational shutdown forces Yemenis seeking U.S. visas to undertake dangerous and expensive travel to third countries, commonly Egypt or Djibouti, just for the opportunity to apply and attend an interview, assuming they can even obtain the necessary exit permits and travel documents to leave Yemen safely. But here is what truly stings. Even those individuals who manage to navigate this complex initial phase, children seeking to join parents, families applying for reunification, students accepted to universities, are frequently denied. They often meet every stated requirement on paper, yet their applications are refused. You would be stunned to know how many American citizens have family members trapped in Yemen, unable to bring them to safety due to years of bureaucratic backlogs, excruciatingly slow processing times, or cases being silently closed without any given reason or avenue for appeal. There's often no fast track, no clear communication channel back to the applicant, and for the vast majority, virtually no hope offered by the official system. Even individuals applying for humanitarian parole, one of the few remaining potential avenues, face overwhelming delays and frequent rejections. It's a heartbreaking situation that leaves families stranded and futures suspended indefinitely in a state of perilous uncertainty. And consider this chilling reality. Some Yemenis who possessed valid, previously issued visas have been turned away mid-journey at airports due to sudden shifts in U.S. policy or heightened security alerts. Imagine the devastation, all the preparation, all the expense, all the hope invested, crushed instantly at the departure gate or port of entry. The visa wall, already high for many nationalities, becomes practically impenetrable for those originating from Yemen. It is not merely about paperwork. It is about being caught in the crossfire of a brutal conflict and the subsequent diplomatic and security fallout. The system, intentionally or not, often works against those desperately seeking legal means of escape or reunification. There is seldom a chance to clarify misunderstandings or correct potential errors in applications. The response is overwhelmingly a denial, leaving individuals and families with few, if any, viable options. Let's delve into the situation for citizens of Iraq. He risked his own safety to assist American troops during intense conflict, served faithfully as a translator bridging critical communication gaps, and meticulously followed every rule laid out in the visa application process. You might think such loyalty and service would guarantee passage. Yet if he is from Iraq, even that demonstrable loyalty does not assure approval for a U.S. visa. Years after the major phases of the Iraq War, and despite significant historical ties and ongoing, albeit complex, diplomatic relations between the two countries, Iraqi citizens continue to face some of the most stringent and protracted screening procedures globally when applying for U.S. visas. One might assume that being an ally, or having directly supported U.S. missions, would streamline the process. But guess what? It often fails to make a significant difference. Since the early 2000s, the visa application process for Iraqis has consistently been ranked among the most difficult and lengthy. Background checks are exceptionally thorough, often involving multiple security agencies and taking an extended period to complete. Consequently, approval rates remain stubbornly low, particularly for individuals lacking established political or military connections that might expedite their case. Even standard student and business visas, typically processed more readily for other nationalities, are remarkably rare and hard-won for Iraqis. Many applicants endure waits stretching over years, spend thousands of dollars on application fees, travel to interviews, and legal assistance, only to never receive a definitive response or face an eventual denial. The U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, while operational, functions under extremely tight security conditions. This leads to frequent, often unannounced closures, rescheduled interviews sometimes months later, and administrative backlogs that seem to stretch endlessly, leaving applicants in a state of prolonged uncertainty. This makes planning any life-changing opportunity, be it education, employment, or family visits, nearly impossible when contingent on a single visa appointment that might be canceled or delayed indefinitely. And here's an eye-opening perspective. There are literally thousands of Iraqi Special Immigrant Visa, SIV, applicants. Individuals who directly supported U.S. government missions, often at great personal risk as translators, guides, or contractors. Yet, despite their service and the inherent dangers they face in Iraq due to their association with the U.S., many are still waiting for their applications to be processed. Some have been waiting for over a decade while their cases seemingly collect dust in bureaucratic systems. Tragically, some applicants remain in hiding, fearing retribution for their work with Americans, while others have already lost family members to violence while desperately hoping for evacuation assistance that never arrived. Even Iraqi Americans struggle significantly to bring family members to the U.S. for visits or reunification. A single minor error in paperwork, a sudden change in global security policy, or an unexplained administrative delay can reset the entire process back to square one, trapping families in separation. It is a frustrating maze of uncertainty and delay, where loyalty and risk often go unrewarded by the system. Now, let's turn to Pakistan. You possess the academic qualifications, perhaps even securing a coveted job offer or university acceptance. You've meticulously prepared your documents and even paid the substantial application fee. Everything seems perfectly in order. However, if you are applying from Pakistan, even meeting all these criteria might not be sufficient to secure an approved U.S. visa. Here is the startling reality. Every year, hundreds of thousands of Pakistani citizens apply to enter the United States for various legitimate reasons, pursuing higher education, accepting employment opportunities, or visiting family members. Yet the visa rejection rate for Pakistani nationals is consistently alarmingly high. According to official data from the U.S. State Department, the refusal rate for B1, B2 tourist and business visas for applicants from Pakistan has frequently hovered around 70% in recent years, and at times has surged even higher. Statistically, this means that more than 2 out of every 3 applications submitted are turned down. So, what complex factors contribute to this challenging situation? Despite Pakistan hosting one of the largest diaspora populations within the United States, indicating strong existing familial and cultural ties, applicants from Pakistan systematically face additional layers of security screening, intense scrutiny during interviews, and significant processing delays. Even highly qualified students who have received full scholarships to attend top-tier American universities have reported having their visa applications denied, often without a clear or specific reason provided. Some applicants describe being asked to furnish extensive proof demonstrating they do not intend to overstay their visa, even when they possess confirmed round-trip airline tickets, substantial financial backing, and documented job offers or university placements awaiting their return to Pakistan. And here lies a particularly frustrating aspect of the process. The vast majority of visa rejections issued to Pakistani applicants come without specific, actionable explanations. There is often no detailed feedback, no guidance on how to rectify potential issues, and crucially, no formal appeal process. Applicants typically receive a standard brief notification stating their application was refused under Section 214(b) of the U.S. Immigration and Nationality Act, a broad category often related to the applicant failing to sufficiently demonstrate non-immigrant intent, i.e., proving they intend to return home. That's it. You would be shocked by the number of individuals left completely in the dark, wondering what specific aspect of their application or interview led to the denial, with no way to address it. Even families attempting reunification face daunting challenges. Spouses seeking to join their partners, elderly parents hoping to visit their children, and even children with American sponsors sometimes encounter endless waiting periods or inexplicable rejections. The administrative processing itself can take many months, sometimes stretching into years, leaving life plans suspended in limbo. Deeper issues compound these difficulties. Consular operations in major Pakistani cities like Karachi and Islamabad are frequently overwhelmed by the sheer volume of applications. Interview appointment slots are limited, processing times are inherently slow due to rigorous security protocols, and sudden changes in U.S. immigration policy or security directives can lead to appointments being canceled with zero notice, forcing applicants to start the waiting game all over again. Pakistani applicants often need to travel considerable distances to reach the consulate, take valuable time off work or studies, and incur significant expenses, only to potentially face a brief, 2-minute interview culminating in a denial. It is a harsh reality, and one that is not discussed nearly enough, impacting countless lives and hindering potential connections. Let's consider Bangladesh. You've patiently waited for months, perhaps even longer. You've prepared meticulously, ensuring every document is in order, every form filled out correctly. The paperwork appears spotless, your intentions legitimate. But if you are applying for a U.S. visa from Bangladesh, the chances are statistically high that you will face rejection, regardless of your preparations. Here's the sobering truth. In recent years, data reveals that more than 50%, over half, of all U.S. visa applications submitted by Bangladeshi citizens have been denied. This staggering statistic applies across various visa categories, encompassing tourist visas, student visas, and even applications for family reunification. Essentially, none of these visa types are immune from the high likelihood of rejection. You might be surprised at how rigorously the rules are applied, even for individuals who present clean background records, substantial financial evidence, and clearly documented legitimate intentions for their travel. So, what drives this exceptionally high denial rate? U.S. consular officials in Dhaka frequently cite concerns about potential visa overstays as one of the primary factors contributing to these rejections. This means that if the interviewing officer suspects, even based on subjective assessment or broad statistical trends, rather than concrete evidence specific to the applicant, that there is a possibility the applicant might not return to Bangladesh after their visa expires, the application is likely to be denied. And guess what? This suspicion often falls disproportionately heavily on younger applicants, particularly single men in their 20s and 30s, even when they possess strong ties to their home country, such as stable employment, property ownership, or family responsibilities. And here's the truly shocking element. Many rejections are not based on anything the applicant has actually done wrong, but rather on a preemptive judgment about what the officer thinks they might do in the future. This is an incredibly difficult hurdle to overcome, especially given the lack of a formal appeal system for most visa denials. There is typically no opportunity to clarify misunderstandings, present additional evidence, or contest the officer's decision. Applicants are simply told no, but the pressure and obstacles don't cease there. Some Bangladeshi students who have gained acceptance into prestigious American universities, often with full-ride scholarships covering all expenses, have tragically had their student visas denied just weeks, or even days, before their scheduled departure flights. Imagine the heartbreak and the missed opportunity after years of hard work and preparation. There's often no backup plan, just profound disappointment. Then consider the families. Parents yearning to attend their child's university graduation in the U.S., relatives hoping to meet newborn grandchildren, individuals seeking vital medical treatment unavailable in Bangladesh. They too are frequently left in tears outside the consulate, holding passports stamped, refused, clutching at shattered hopes. Compounding this is the fact that interview wait times in Dhaka can be incredibly long, sometimes exceeding 400 days, over a year, just to get an appointment. You might endure this prolonged wait, only to be told no after an interview lasting less than 3 minutes. This is the brutal, exhausting reality faced by thousands of Bangladeshis every single year. The combination of high demand, limited consular resources, stringent security screening, pervasive overstay concerns, and the subjective nature of the final decision creates a system where the odds are heavily stacked against the applicant from the outset. From the struggles in Afghanistan under the Taliban to the near-impenetrable walls around North Korea, and the complex histories binding Iran, Syria, Iraq, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Myanmar to difficult visa processes, we've journeyed through nations where obtaining a U.S. visa feels like navigating a minefield. These aren't just isolated incidents. They represent systemic barriers rooted in geopolitics, security concerns, historical conflicts, and often, overwhelming bureaucratic hurdles. We've seen how embassy closures force applicants into perilous journeys to third countries, only to face staggering rejection rates exceeding 90% in some cases, like Afghanistan. We've explored the unique isolation of North Korea, where even escape is a near impossibility, let alone securing a visa, with approval chances below 1%. Iran's story highlights how historical events and deep-seated mistrust can sever ties and erect formidable administrative walls, impacting even the most qualified applicants. The ongoing civil wars in Syria and Yemen have led to embassy shutdowns and pushed visa approval rates to the lowest levels globally, trapping individuals fleeing violence in a desperate limbo, often forcing them towards dangerous, illegal routes when legal pathways fail. Iraq, despite its complex history as a U.S. ally, presents immense challenges, with even those who directly supported U.S. missions facing years of waiting and uncertainty due to stringent screening. Pakistan and Bangladesh demonstrate how high rejection rates, often fueled by overstay concerns and applied disproportionately, can shatter the dreams of students, professionals, and families, frequently without clear explanations or recourse. And in Myanmar, political instability and sanctions have created a perfect storm, making visa acquisition incredibly difficult, even for those with legitimate needs and flawless applications. The common threads are clear: lack of direct consular access in many cases, arduous and expensive processes often requiring travel to third countries, excruciatingly long waiting times sometimes spanning years, high rejection rates frequently based on broad security concerns or subjective assessments rather than individual merit, and a frustrating lack of transparency or appeal mechanisms for denials. It's more than just paperwork. It's a reflection of global tensions, national security priorities, and historical legacies playing out in the lives of ordinary people. Students miss educational opportunities. Families remain separated. Professionals cannot pursue careers, and those seeking refuge find doors firmly closed. The system, whether by design or due to overwhelming circumstances, creates invisible walls that profoundly impact millions. Understanding these complexities is the first step towards recognizing the human stories behind the statistics and the geopolitical forces shaping destinies. Thank you for joining us on this exploration. Remember to like, subscribe, and share if you found this valuable.